All I can say after coming out of the first episode of Sakugan is please watch this. Walking into this show before it even started up, I mean, I looked at the trailers, the promotional images, and things like that, and I said, wow, this kind of gives me a Deca-Dence vibe, which if you haven't seen that wonderful show, I also highly recommend it. But I feel like one of two things is going to happen. Either A, the first episode or first few episodes will set up enough buzz that it will grow a following during the season that it's airing. Or two, it's going to be really good, but there's not going to be a big enough hook or twist that will sell people early on, and it won't be until seasons from now until people finally get it started. You know, they finally say, okay, I've heard enough buzz. Because I was convinced this would be a very good father-daughter story, as the vibe of the world and the way its workers were kind of like integrated into its society, it had a very decadent style feel where it's a future far off where you have some interesting technological sides, but there's clearly going to be like some form of monster or invasion or something big, right? And there is a twist with this episode. I'm not going to specify just yet in case people are wondering why they should watch it, but there is a hook that sells you on what could truly happen down the line, and a story where, when you hear father and daughter, there's really two things that happen. Either A, romance, and trust me, I say that in quotations, but you know how anime can be, or two, it is a father-daughter story, but it's just kind of like a slice of life adventure sort of a thing, right? A father raising a daughter. Here, you have a father who admits in this episode that he is not a good father and doesn't know what it means to be a good parent, but he knows what he wants to do, and that is to protect his kid and guide his kid the best way possible. The girl is, without a doubt, an Einstein of her generation. I think they say she's 9 in this episode, and the way she talks, what she's built, the machines that just kind of like revolutionize their world, so to speak, in terms of how they can mine things, and the fact that apparently she's already graduated college. Like, she's without a doubt someone who feels like an adult despite still being a kid, and for a father who just wants her to be like him and, you know, enjoy childhood and not try to rush off into death traps and explore the unknown like she does, it's a compelling enough hook to say, I want to see where this episode's gonna go, and then by the time the twist does come, you're like, okay, I'm definitely sold, or at least I know I was. And that's really the best I can give without diving into kind of bigger spoiler territory. You have some interesting relationships between another father-daughter duo where the daughter's encouraging, being like, yeah, you should be an adventurer, the father reluctantly going along with it, but kind of saying like, you know, when the time comes, you just have to support even if you don't agree with it. There's just a lot of great chemistry and bonding, and the world is definitely very Decadence-like, with a hint of Made in Abyss in the sense that there's these unknown passages and colonies, and the idea of wanting to explore, getting a map, and trying to go into the unknown. Dangerous, but curious. That's kind of like the best way to sell it in my opinion, so please go watch episode 1 or continue on with the video if you don't care about spoilers. Now, when the twist eventually does come in this episode, which truthfully I didn't see it coming, or at least not in the way that it happened, because ultimately you have a kaiju pop up and it's rampaging the town, and I'm like, okay, if I had any sort of Decadence vibes, this is definitely it 100%, because monsters, the city, just some of the wider shots with the landscape, it very much gave me that feel, and I love that anime so much. So to have anything remind me of that is a blessing for me. And when they went off to like fight or try to supply or help the people, I was expecting like maybe one of them wouldn't make it, but the idea of just like the parting scene and just how quickly it lit up and exploded and killed them, it really set in motion. While these two would have been very good characters to have pop up either as side characters or, you know, we'd meet up with them again someday, it's not like them dying ruins the potential, because this world is very full of life and personality, and we can have more characters. So while on a connection side, I'm not going to shed a tear that they died, seeing their reaction definitely moved me because of how much they meant to them, so to speak. To really see this girl's persona change was pretty heartbreaking, because she's very much gun-ho and felt like, you know, more of a parent at times in this episode than the father did. I mean, come drunken home, stumbling in bed, begging her to be a kid, and then she has to take off his dirty socks to put in the laundry as he's passed out as she's doing her research for her own work, right? It's just a very compelling dynamic, and I love how they kick it off with them basically trapping the other and fighting and insulting each other, and then going to work the next day pretending like nothing happened as she just listens to the radio broadcast. You can definitely tell that it's not a normal father-daughter story where most likely throughout the journey of this show, we're going to see them bicker more and more, especially if they're going to be putting themselves in harm's way, exploring the unknown. But you're also probably going to see that kind of relationship brew where they will feel more like a father and daughter as it goes on. And the fact that they set up episode 1 showing that fathers and daughters can die like that, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if something bad does happen. Now, I'm not going to expect either one of them to die anytime soon, but once we get closer to the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, there's a life or death situation where there is a potential of the father dying in this. I wouldn't think the daughter, I think the daughter's probably the safest out of the two. But just given what they set up here, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest to see the dad die at some point in this show. And I actually thought this was an original story, but I guess it's based on a light novel, and I've heard hardly any buzz about it from people walking in, and it's just a shame because this is a show that I feel like is going to get slept on. And part of my kind of like vision of this channel is, first and foremost, cover what I enjoy talking about the most, but 2, bring to light shows that most channels don't talk about. And if they do, they only talk about them for a couple of episodes, they see there's not enough views to carry on, and then they don't talk about it anymore. Me, when I'm excited about a show, the only reason I would stop is either A, there's copyright issues, or B, I lose interest, and neither one of those are an issue right now. I think the idea of a world where you have like this gem and it's a map, and I think the map situation was what kind of gave me a Made in Abyss feel, where like, you know, you go deeper and deeper into the world, you discover colonies or people within those areas that are filled with monsters and dangers, as you have on the top layer. Something that has like a very decadent civilization style feel, but then you have an interesting father-daughter duo, because often when you have a father-daughter duo, if they're not trying to be cringy with it with romance, they ultimately just have them generally, they're pretty good together, right? They're father-daughter, they love each other. But here, we definitely have a lot of resistance. I mean, in this episode, she throws it in his face that that's why mom left you, right? Like, the fact of the matter is, there's going to be tension on this road, and with as interesting of a world as this, which I truly think, the 2 big selling points of this episode was the father-daughter duo and the world. The world visually looks stunning. Hell, even the CG that they used on the monsters, I really like that they blended it with darker shades as to not make it look as off-putting. I think there's going to be a lot of potential for creative imagery with the beast that will probably try to attack them, or they're going to try to avoid as they explore the unknown and probably discover more civilizations as the show goes on, which would be really cool because given what we've seen, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if there's dozens of colonies out there that don't know the other exists, and there's similar daughters and fathers out there wanting to explore the unknown, not knowing what truly is at stake or what's truly out there, so to speak. I mean, it's crystal clear why a father, even if he thinks he's a bad father, would not want her to, you know, jump aboard and go into this dangerous mission. Just look at how quickly a father and daughter duo died when they were clearly trained and experienced in the unknown. So this one is clearly going to be a blast for me. I mean, I understand why shows like these do get slept on more than the big dogs of the season, but I think visually it had a very bouncy feel to it. Great animation, expressions, like the body reactions in this was some of the best I've seen already this season. The world seems interesting, the character bonding seem interesting. The music, especially the directing during that emotional sequence, was flawless. This show's going to be a blast, and it's going to be depressing at points as well. It's crystal clear. I highly recommend everyone to continue with this one. Talk about it with me, because this is a show that, like Deca-Dence, I was like, you know what, no matter what happens with views, this is one I'm going to be continuing, and I hope to be able to do it with this one as well. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think? And are you excited about episode 2 next week? Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.